The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Indeed, the gang is all here, and plenty to talk about today. Pretty full slate of racing action to get you prepared for, so be ready for that as we get into the schedule for the weekend. Plus, we got a whole lot of sponsor news, some pictures that you can see kind of how everything's going to look on track once we get into the racing action. We got some breaking news from just last night, and a question. You like NASCAR and Lego? Well, you'll be in luck. We'll give you details on that. Can Stewart-Haas Racing keep a sponsor with Kevin Harvick leaving? Where's this year's charity ride taking place for Kyle Petty? More information about the grounds of Auto Club Speedway as they prepare to make massive changes there. Yet more drivers announced in the SRX series for this coming season. New gas for IndyCar, plus what they're going to do to promote themselves against NASCAR and Formula One celebrations. Speaking of Formula One, how do they compare to the NFL? What? Yeah. How much money is going to go to the drivers this year? And a Super Bowl champion set to go racing too. All that and more on CRN.
Here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
In today's economy, small business
to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, we are. Let's kick it off by looking back real quick at what happened last weekend. Now, just before the show ended, we told you about the rundown in Formula E. We didn't get to the points. Let's go ahead and run you down those real quick. Pascal Wehrlein retains the points lead. He's got 80. Jake Dennis still second with 62. Jean-Eric Vergne, second place finish in South Africa, moves him up to third with 50. 46 for race winner Antonio Felix da Costa. Nick Cassidy with 43. 41 for Sebastian Buemi. Rene Rast has 38. Sam Bird and Jake Hughes tied with 28. Filling out the top 10, a tie between Lucas deGrassi and Andre Lauderer. It's strange to hear those two veterans in Formula One down in 10th with only 18 points when the leaders got 80.
Yeah, it really does.
Team standings, Tag Heuer Porsche. Great start to the season, racking up 126 points to Mahindra's second place total of 84 so far. See if that continues throughout the season. Avalanche Andretti, a nice rebound season for them. They're in third with 80, 66 for McLaren, DS Penske with 61, 42 for Jaguar TCS, Mahindra 26, 19 for Neo F333. Go figure. Nissan's got 18, 3 for the inaugural season of Maserati.
How many?
3. But they're not the worst. ABT, after having taken a year off, they're back with the Cooper team, and they've got a big old goose egg. Oof. Welcome back. Hey, it was supposed to be an Xfinity and then Cup Series weekend, which actually turned into a Cup Series then Xfinity Series weekend thanks to snow. Yeah, I said snow. Where were they running again?
That would be Auto Club Speedway of Southern California.
Southern California and snow. Welcome to Mother Nature. Anyway, the race finally got delayed. It ended up running on Sunday evening after the Cup Series, so let's talk Cup Series first. And, well, we all knew that this wasn't going to take long. 2 races? Mm-hmm. Not sure I had that on the bingo card.
Nope.
Might have been a little bit sooner than most people thought for one Kyle Busch, but his second race in his new digs at the British Children's Racing, he ends up getting that win. And it's a milestone win in a couple of ways. First, it marks his 19th straight season where he claims at least one win, and that breaks the tie with Richard Petty for the most all time. Plus, his win plus the wins racked up by his brother Kurt now make 95 for the Busch brothers. And that puts them one ahead of Bobby and Donnie Allison for the most by a brother combination all time in NASCAR. As they say, records are made to be broken, right?
They are.
Kyle beat Chase Elliott. We'll get back to him in a minute. To the checkered flag, he was second. Ross Chastain third. Daniel Suarez fourth. All 4 in Chevrolets. Then you got the Ford of Kevin Harvick, the Toyota of Denny Hamlin, the Brad Keselowski Ford, the Chevys of Alex Bowman and Austin Dillon, and the Ford of Joey Logano rounding out the top 10. 1 Toyota in the top 10. 1.
Yeah, I think they had a little bit of an issue dealing with grip the entire weekend.
Yeah, I would say so. Things are really close in the standings. Obviously, you got Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who won the Daytona 500, and then Kyle Busch locked into the playoffs. The rest of your 16, the other 14 drivers that are in right now, and understand this is only after 2 races in the year, so a lot of changes will be coming. Ross Chastain, Joey Logano, Alex Bowman, Kevin Harvick, Daniel Suarez, Chris Buescher, not Christopher, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Corey LaJoie, Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell, and Michael McDowell are your top 16 after 2 events. I'm going to say this. Quite a few of these names I would expect probably are going to stick around. I think there's about 3, maybe 4 that'll switch out.
Let's see here. I could see... Well, when you take away the top 30 rule that's gone now.
That's true.
Anybody is really in play.
That's true.
But I see 1, 2, 3, 4.
I said 3, maybe 4.
I see 4 pending a 5th.
Yeah, we'll get back to that in a minute. When all the stuff was done with the Cup Series and it was turning over to the Xfinity Series, a driver who was full-time for Kyle Busch Motorsports in what is now the Craftsman Truck Series is now full-time in Xfinity competition for Joe Gibbs Racing, and he was celebrating in victory lane. Talking John Hunter Nemechek, who just missed out on winning the season opener at Daytona. At Auto Club, he led 49 laps. He was 3/4 of a second in front of second-place Sam Mayer by the time the checkered flag was shown. Mayer was second, bested his teammate Justin Allgaier. Then it's Chandler Smith and Josh Berry, top 5. Rest of your top 10, Austin Hill, Riley Earps, the Moonlighter, Austin Dillon, Brett Moffitt, and Parker Kligerman filling out the top 10. Parker Kligerman back, remember, full-time in Xfinity competition this year. Austin Hill, John Nemechek locked into the playoffs with their wins, trailed by Justin Allgaier, Chandler Smith, Riley Earps, Cole Custer, despite having a very bad day at Auto Club, Sam Mayer, Joe Graff Jr.
Blind squirrels do find nuts every now and then.
Josh Berry, Ryan Sieg, Parker Kligerman, Parker Retzlaff after 2 races. Yeah, expect changes. Busy weekend this weekend. Actually began last night. Craftsman Truck Series running the Victoria's Voice Foundation 200 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Matt's got to look back on that.
Alrighty, it's kind of one of those same song, different verse kind of scenarios. You know, it's one of them. It is what it is. Things you didn't expect any less. But driver 51 in his Chevrolet debut in the Craftsman Truck Series. Kyle Busch wins. Yeah, didn't miss a beat, leading 84 of the 134 laps. You got Zane Smith second, Ben Rhodes third, Corey Heim fourth, Ty Majeski fifth. You had Christian Eckes, Carson Hocevar, Chase Purdy, Grant Enfinger, and Jake Garcia rounding out the top 10.
You and I were texting because qualifying took place yesterday afternoon, kind of mid-afternoon.
Uh-huh.
And a couple of very nice qualifying runs for a couple of drivers there. Haley Deegan and our own backyard driver himself, Munford, Alabama's own Brett Holmes.
Right.
They qualified, what was it, 5th and 6th?
5th and 6th, respectively. Yeah, Haley now has the highest qualifying position by a female in the Craftsman Truck Series history. But even though she started 4th at Knoxville last year, it technically does not count because it was not a single qualifying lap. The single qualifying lap, she has the official top best starting position for a female.
Okay.
And then Brett had, I communicated with him after the race, after qualifying a little bit, and just told him, I said, monster lap. I said, phenomenal. I said, phenomenal lap. He said, yeah, we found a little bit. I said, well, hope everything translates to the race and you have a good solid run. I said, I know this is your best overall intermediate statistically.
Sure.
And Lady Luck in Vegas wasn't really on his side because not only him, but several trucks did the same thing. They would lose the front end of the nose and get into the wall, whether it be off of turn 4 or turn 2. Unfortunately, he was the first victim of it. And then going into turn 1, lost the right front tire, blew it, and had suspension damage and was on the DVP, which is the damaged vehicle policy clock.
Yep.
And wasn't able to continue, and he was credited with 34th. But, I mean, John Hunter Nemechek.
They'll reload and try it again.
Same problem. Nick Sanchez, same problem. Roger Carruth, he had a pit road issue, but I think he had a similar issue as well. Let's see. John Hunter Nemechek.
That's a big name to have a problem like that.
Haley Deegan got into problems last night. So nobody was bulletproof last night at all.
Not at all. We'll see what happens today because the Xfinity Series is going to try it. Yeah, they're going to try. They'll probably actually get it. The weather's actually pretty good out there, even if it's a little cool. Alsco Uniforms 300 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It'll air on PRN Radio and Fox Sports 1, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Central start time. Formula One gets their 2023 season rolling on Sunday morning. They're going to run the Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix on the Bahrain circuit. It's a 15-turn, 3.2-mile-long course out in the Middle East. It'll air on ESPN just before 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central time. Aston Martin, by the way, confirmed that should Lance Stroll not be able to make it to the green flag for this weekend due to that wrist injury that we were talking about the last couple of weeks, they would indeed be putting primary reserve driver Felipe Drugovich in the car, not Sebastian Vettel, as some people had rumored. In the Friday practice sessions, however, it was Stroll driving, but the team complained a little bit because they realized he probably was holding back a little bit and protecting that wrist.
Sure.
So one of two things, he either has more pain than he's letting on, or he's just out there testing out to make sure that he can handle it, and he's going to suck it up and deal with whatever comes come tomorrow morning.
Yeah. You can't fault him for trying.
No.
You can't at all.
So we'll see what happens. IndyCar will be next up. They're going to open up their season down in Florida with the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. 1.8 mile long, 14-turn street course. It'll air on NBC and the IRN radio network. 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Time. That's what I said. So, hey, this is kind of a mini Memorial Day weekend if you want. You start off with Formula One, go to IndyCar, and then your full slate of Sunday racing wraps up with the Cup Series. The Pennzoil 400 presented by Jiffy Lube at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. PRN Radio, Fox have the coverage, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Formula E is off. That's it. NHRA hasn't started their season yet. We'll get there. Next week, I think it is.
Yes.
So, yeah, big time start to the year. So, yeah, looking good. A lot of racing this weekend. Looking forward to that. Very, very happy to know that I get a lot of racing in, and somewhere down the line I got to figure out where I'm going to mow my yard. Haven't figured that one out yet. Before we go to break, let's do this here. Last night, just before the just before the Truck Series got underway, and I want to say it was right about the time Xfinity qualifying got underway, too. Isn't that right, timing-wise, when we got the news?
Very, very close.
Somewhere in that area. We got some big-time breaking news about one Cup Series driver who, well, their extracurricular activities, let's just say, caught up with them.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to say caught up, I think that's an understatement for sure. It broke late yesterday that a gentleman by the name of William Clyde Elliott, better known as Chase, will not be competing at Las Vegas this weekend. You ask why? He was injured in a snowboarding accident in Colorado to his left leg. Your left leg is pretty crucial because you got to use that leg to brake the car. Per the release from Hendrick Motorsports, Chase Elliott, the driver of the number 9 Chevrolet Camaro Z01 for Hendrick Motorsports, you know what I'm talking about, will not complete this weekend in NASCAR's Cup Series event at Las Vegas Motor Speedway due to a leg injury. Elliott suffered the leg injury to his left leg while snowboarding in Colorado. He is scheduled to undergo surgery this evening, which was last night. So that tells me it is a substantial injury if they're already doing surgery.
Yep.
Didn't specify if it was what part of the leg it was, if it was knee, ankle, leg, etc. Reading the subliminal messaging here, sounds like to me he's got a broken bone somewhere.
Which they could do any number of things from screws to a rod to God only knows what, but figure he's probably going to be out. Certainly this weekend, maybe next weekend.
Pending the severity of the injury.
There's a lot pending, yeah. That's true.
Pending of the severity of the injury. I personally don't see him back before. I don't see him back before Talladega. Personally.
Okay. Of course, Hendrick Motorsports is already appealing, I'm sure, to get a medical waiver, which I'm pretty certain is going to be granted.
Yeah, it will be granted because, I mean, you can't, there's been precedent set. Brett Moffitt had a medical waiver. Tony Stewart had a medical waiver. Several others.
Yeah,
but the
off-track stuff.
The fill-in for Elliott for Sunday's event at Las Vegas, and I could foresee him filling in for all the companion races that are there.
Absolutely.
Josh Berry. Here's your shot, bud.
Yeah, this is it.
This is your shot.
You've been looking to show it, and he's shown it very, very well in Xfinity competition. Now it's time to step it up and see what you can do against the biggest guys in the sport.
He just says this will be his third career Cup start. His 2 previous ones with Spire, which, that's just seat time.
Yeah. I mean, you got a taste of it at that point in time, but now you got a car. Now you got a real good car to go with.
Statement from Rick Hendrick. Chase's health is our primary concern. He has spoken with several members of our team and is understandably disappointed to miss time in the car. Of course, he has our full support and will provide any resources that he needs. Hope to share another update later this weekend.
So my question is now, and Rick Hendrick's pretty lax when it comes to this. He pretty much lets his drivers do a whole lot of extracurricular activities, but how soon before we get a whole bunch of teams that are starting to look at their drivers and go, dude, no skiing, no snowboarding?
Well, I forgot who it was. I think it was Jordan Bianchi. People are going to have that stuff like that, but you can't make them live in a glass bubble.
That's true. Some will try, though. We'll get into the rest of the Cup Series news right after this on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, the guy who set up the things that are going on the air right now. Got this one wrong. Oh, well, it's the way it goes. Hey, we had just mentioned the fact that Kurt Busch is now half of that winning brother combination in NASCAR history. His racing career's done, unfortunately for him. It was done earlier than he wanted. He suffered a concussion in a crash last summer at Pocono Raceway in qualifying, of all things. The thing about it is, got an update this week. It's kind of lingering. The now consultant for 2311, not 23 by 1, racing still has not been cleared by doctors. He helped mentor Travis Pastrana in the Daytona 500, pulled some strings to ensure that Billy Scott was going to come to the team as a crew chief. He's also chatting up 2311 sponsors. He's basically doing all that he would need to do as a model employee for 2311 Racing, except racing. And he talked about it this week. He said, quote, when you look at the therapist and he's looking back at you, you know there's work to be done. It's really all I can give you. But he did note that he's about to begin a new type of physical therapy program. It's designed to be helping his balance and his eye movement exercises so that it won't throw off his equilibrium as quick. Until he knows more, he said this, though, quote, go-karting has been fine for me. The simulator's been fine. It's just when I had my head in the headrest, there's that movement that bothers me. Again, Busch claimed 34 race wins over 23 years. He's, of course, the 2004 Cup Series champion, but he said this right here, the scariest thing he's ever gone through in his life.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it, but
especially if it's lingering this long.
If it's lingering this long, it tells me there's some type of a more serious injury that he suffered.
Yeah. something happened.
Something underlying that's causing that.
And again, this goes back to that situation that we were talking about. I mean, we get it. We've seen concussions in NASCAR before. I mean, look at Dale Earnhardt Jr. But this goes back to that problem that NASCAR had it really came to a big head with this crash last year with the new car. They built it, like you said, spring Talladega. You got a good look at these cars. They were built like tanks. You mentioned that.
Too stiff.
Unfortunately, too much like tanks.
I've said from the word go they've been too stiff. Because when you have an accident in a car, race cars in general, and I'm going to use from dirt late models all the way up, everything in between, open wheel included.
Oh yeah, almost especially open wheel in some cases.
There are components within the car that are built to disperse the energy, energy dissipation, however you want to call it.
It's the intent anyway.
It's the intent, because the number one thing that is the most flexible and the most susceptible to soaking up energy is your person holding the steering wheel, male, female, whoever it may be.
Yeah, we're the most flexible, human beings are the most flexible thing in any car.
Right. That's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to have a car that dissipates the energy away from your driver. And unfortunately, these cars don't. And some of the in-car camera shots I've seen of accidents already this year, seems like to me it's same song, different verse.
Yeah. I mean, they've done some advancements over the course of the last year. We talked about it. We even detailed it on this show about how much they changed the rear end of the car. And not really, I'm not talking about the axle, obviously. I'm talking about the whole back end structure of the car to make it a little bit more flexible.
The rear clip, yeah.
There's more work to be done, probably.
I mean, we haven't seen an accident yet to where it's more of a rear force accident, to where one of the, what I call a wreck that'll knock the clip off the car. We haven't seen one of those yet, so we really don't know 100% yet if these changes have worked or are going to work. Because yes, there's lighter material. Yes, there's bars taken out to make it a little bit more energy dissipating. But honestly, somebody's going to have to be the crash test dummy.
Yeah. I mean, all of this is just a start.
Yeah.
Really, that's the truth. If you watched the race last Sunday, you likely saw the very first loose wheel of the season. None of that happened at Daytona. Somewhat surprising, only the one incident at Auto Club, and it unfortunately nailed producer John's favorite driver, the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. While under yellow, Truex came down to change tires, but it came loose on pit exit. He was told to go ahead and try and make it around the 2-mile oval, but the wheel had other ideas, came off as he was going down the back stretch. Due to coming loose on the track, this does mean an automatic 2-race suspension for tire changer Daniel Zowie and the jackman Kellen Mills. This is, from last year to this year, that lesser penalty that we detailed in the off-season. Last year was an automatic 4-race suspension for the tire man, for the jackman, and the crew chief. This year, that suspension does not include the crew chief. Sports Business Journal, we'll get to them here in just a second. I like the fact that they have actually kind of taken some of the things out of this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because, you know, certain things are going to happen, especially when you're talking about a single lug nut. We see it in Formula One. We've seen it in IndyCar. We're now seeing it in NASCAR.
There's one thing I would like to see to eliminate this down even further. They've eliminated it down to a good point, and so I'm going to label it as a good point so far, because it made no sense to suspend the crew chief.
I didn't think
none
it did
whatsoever. It made no sense to throw all these fines and stuff over, because the crew chief is not holding the air gun, nor is he operating the jack. All right. Now, in regards to, I'm going to say the suspensions need to be reverted back to the jackman. Here's why.
Okay.
When that jack drops, that's the signal for the car to go.
True.
If jackman drops the car too early and tire changers are not finishing their job, how can you blame the tire changer?
Yeah, because they can only go so far until the car starts rolling off, because
Right.
the last thing you want to do is have that jack attached to the wheel when it starts rolling.
Exactly. And then when the locking, I'm just going to call it a locking nut because that's really all it is. It's a locking nut. There needs to be a way for where if the locking nut is found, inspect the locking nut to make sure the locking nut didn't fail, because there's springs on that locking nut. If that spring fails, you can't blame the tire changer, nor can you blame the jackman. My opinion. Now, you could, to a degree, blame the tire changer if he over torques it, but it only goes to a certain point and it locks. That's when he knows to go, to come off the wheel. Excuse me. So it's still, with me, this is still touch and go, but there's progress to what they're doing so far.
Okay. This year's going to be interesting. We've talked about this basically since the Busch Light Clash, when Kevin Harvick said, "This is going to be my last year. I'm no longer going to be driving full-time in the Cup Series after this year, and I'm going to transition basically to two things. Number one, I'm going to be joining the Fox broadcast booth, and I'm going to be the dad to my son, Keelan, and my daughter, who both, Keelan obviously is starting a very intense racing career, and his daughter might actually get into it as well." But then there's the question of what's going to happen with that 4-car. In this case, we're not necessarily talking about the driver either. Sports Business Journal reports that likely after everything is done at the end of the 2023 season, they're saying Stewart-Haas Racing has a more than even chance of losing out on the sponsorship of Anheuser-Busch. That'd be a big hit. Sports Business Journal reports the company's been talking to several Cup Series teams about their 2024 and beyond plans, and their report states that Trackhouse Racing and driver Ross Chastain appears to be the front runners to gain that sponsorship. Spokesperson for the company didn't specify anything about any specific team, just said this, quote, "Busch Light has been and always will be passionate about NASCAR. We continue to be invested in the sport as an official sponsor and will always find ways to show up at races and provide new opportunities for our fans in 2023 and beyond. When it comes to sponsoring new drivers, nothing is off the table." Which tells me that a return to Stewart-Haas Racing is not off the table, but it may not be on the 4-car.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you your new version of Monster Energy.
Sure.
How many drivers do Monster sponsor? Does Monster sponsor?
Well, there's 2 right now in the Cup Series.
Gibbs, Reddick, Herbst,
That's Xfinity.
Deegan.
Yep. And that's trucks.
4. I'm pretty sure. I'm not pretty sure. I am 1,000,000% positive. Anheuser-Busch has more money than Monster Energy.
One would think.
I'm pretty sure they could afford
More than one?
to have one car branded as Busch Light, have
Yeah.
another car branded as, who knows, Budweiser makes a return.
Yeah.
Michelob,
Well, let's face it. There's several different brands under the Anheuser-Busch umbrella.
Michelob Ultra. I mean, just for fun.
Oh, okay. Let's look at all the brands under the Anheuser-Busch umbrella, shall we? So we know you got Busch, we got Budweiser,
Here we go.
you got Michelob. Those are just the main names. Obviously, you got all your little sub-brands under there.
Aha. Here we go.
Okay.
The Anheuser-Busch brands, which consist of 12.
Oh, wow. More than I thought.
Busch, which would be the Busch and Busch Light. I would classify Busch and Busch Light.
Yeah. I mean, just give the overalls. Obviously, you got your lights and your ultras and all the other stuff.
Budweiser,
Sure.
Bud Light, Kona Brewing Company, Michelob Ultra, Stella Artois,
I didn't know they had that.
Estrella Jalisco.
Bless you.
Thank you. Natural Light, Landshark Lager, Presidente, Shock Top. I'm going to butcher this name because it's German, but I'm going to try it anyway.
Okay.
Old Garden,
Wow. Do they even sell that here?
I don't know.
Huh.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they could afford to have a Busch Light car
And a Budweiser
or
car.
Budweiser or, hey, let's bring Bud Light car, which I would be all but certain that would be a very popular race car,
I would think it would be.
or even Natural Light.
Natty Ice, baby.
Natty Lights, baby.
We'll see. Time will tell. Yeah. Could be more than one car. We'll find out. That being said, Ross Chastain, I understand why they would be considering that. I understand that wholeheartedly.
I can see that.
Absolutely.
I don't know how much beer and watermelon go together, but hey, we'll see.
Hey, don't knock it till you tried it. Speaking of sponsorship, you likely have seen the He Gets Us commercials, which kind of seeks to increase Jesus in the American psyche. They aired, for example, during the Super Bowl, and they've been fairly prevalent since then. And now they're officially joining NASCAR. They're sponsoring Ty Gibbs and the number 54 Toyota of Joe Gibbs Racing for 6 races. Got a picture of it right now up on our YouTube feed, CRN Live. Thanks to jski.com for that particular picture. It's, for those of us who happen, I mean, it's kind of interesting that this happens this weekend in Sin City. They're going to be on the hood also, though, at COTA, Dover, Atlanta in July, New Hampshire, and finally at Pocono. This campaign, He Gets Us, began about a year ago. Leads the Michigan-based group to say this, quote, after the success of our previous collaboration, we are honored to expand our primary sponsorship from 2 Xfinity Series races last year to 6 Cup Series events this year. We look forward to growing our reach and our impact as a result. Again, they aired 2 commercials during the Super Bowl, ended up being the second most talked about ads from the game, including a very moronic conversation done by New York Congresswoman AOC, who can't seem to get her size whatever foot out of her mouth at any particular time.
Hey, yeah.
So, yeah. So, again, you can see that car there. And just on a side note, I believe it's Xfinity Series. Jeffrey Earnhardt later today going to be running a
Correct.
paint scheme that sponsors or shows off the Irwin Brothers film. Irwin Brothers are Alabama-based. Well, they're Tennessee-based now, but they are Alabama-born movie directors who did the movie Jesus Revolution, which I've had the chance to see this movie. If you get the chance to go see it, go. It's a very good film. Let's see, where are we going to next? How about Front Row Motorsports? They're about to add a 3rd car to the field at Talladega, and they're going to put Todd Gilliland in the seat. Here's what we do know. The car is going to be the number 36 Ford Mustang. It has no charter. It's going to be driven by Gilliland, so he's going to have to get in on speed. Feature sponsorship from a company under the umbrella of N29 Capital Partners and Roy de Bush Development and Construction. Exactly which company yet we don't know. This is going to make now, though, a fully sponsored season for the second-year driver. Gilliland is, by the way, in the team's number 38 Ford Mustang this weekend. Remember, we talked about this, 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
In that Gilliland's the majority driver in the 38, but they decided that they're going to give another driver a few races in the car, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to put Todd in the car the whole season. He is now getting a full season over a couple of different cars, including this number 36. It still seems like a weird deal. Why wouldn't you give the other driver the 36 car and make him get in on speed? This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me in some ways.
Sorry, but no, it doesn't. No sense whatsoever.
I mean,
None. You can afford to put a 3rd car out there for the Daytona 500. You can afford to put a 3rd car on the track at Talladega, but you can't afford to put it on the track for the other 5 races.
I don't know.
Give me a break, Bob Jenkins.
I agree. More pictures on the way, more news on the way, including, well, Daytona 500 champions tend to get a lot of sponsorship throughout the season. That's the case for tomorrow.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer Justin, producer. And let me try and figure that whole thing out before I start fumbling over and combining words. Producer John Myers.
Thank you.
How long have I known you?
Quite a while.
Long
Quite
enough
a while.
to get my name right.
What am I trying for? Qualifying here? Good night. Excuse me. While I try and get my tongue out of the way of my eye teeth so I can see what I'm saying. Daytona 500 champions always seem to get sponsorship boosts right after they win the biggest race of the season. JTG Dougherty Racing and driver Ricky Stenhouse Jr. No exception here, no different. They got sponsorship from longtime NASCAR partner in Coca-Cola, specifically their Coke Zero Sugar brand. The look at what you can see right now on our CRN Live YouTube channel. It's going to race tomorrow. This, I got to say, good-looking car.
Not bad. Not
I
bad
like
at
the
all.
look of that car. Gotta say. Plus, if I'm drinking a soda, that's pretty much my one of choice.
Cheers.
Cup Series short track racing rules changing again. It's going to come into effect next weekend, actually, at Phoenix Raceway. NASCAR's hoping to make the racing on short tracks and road courses, they say, a little more competitive. The downforce will be affected, or more specifically, the lack of downforce. NASCAR is now mandating from what used to be a 4-inch rear spoiler, now a 2-inch rear spoiler. Several changes under the car that NASCAR states will create 30% less downforce than the package that they used just last year. All of this creates the lowest downforce seen since, well, before we got into the 2000s. So we're talking almost 30 years now, much more like the rules of, say, the mid-1990s, according to the series officials report. Much of this does seem to be inspired by the Garage 56 Le Mans entry, the NASCAR, Hendrick Motorsports, Chevrolet, Goodyear combined effort, which used 3 different aero packages in testing. They decided the one that had the least downforce was actually their optimum choice, which I get it. I mean, if you take a look at the Le Mans course, for example, other than a couple of small chicanes, you're dealing with a very, very long Mulsanne straight. You're looking for ultimate speed. But this is a rules package that's not just going to be in effect at at oval tracks, short tracks. This is the road and street course package as well, unless I miss my guess.
No, you're right. Or, hey, here's a better idea. Instead of having a wing on the back of the car, basically, you know what this means? Lay that spoiler back. It serves the same purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Serves the same.
Yeah. You can still cut down on the downforce of it, but you're not going to lose that much grip on the back end.
Put a 4-inch spoiler on at a super speedway and watch them fly, boys.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Can we?
2 inches.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
2 inches. Basically, that much. From the top of my finger right here up.
It's not much.
Here's the kicker. Here's the big kicker. They make you think they got a 2-inch spoiler on.
Mm-hmm.
Any one of our listeners or viewers looked at a Cup car up close and seen that they have a piece of clear Lexan around the dark part to make it look deceptive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not buying it.
Nope. We'll have to take a close look next weekend once they get there. By the way, speaking of which, Garage 56 entry, we showed you how that car will look a couple of weeks ago. We now know the number that they're going to use. Being as noted a Hendrick Motorsports effort, they're going to pull out the famed number 24 and slap that on the car. Driver lineup, not set to feature the driver that made it famous. We've talked about that. Jeff Gordon ain't driving it, although he had said he was very interested in it at the beginning. Your 3 drivers again, ex-Formula One driver Jenson Button joining road course ace Mike Rockenfeller and your 7-time Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson in this 3-man tag team. There is the chance that a 4th driver might be added before all is said and done, but I think there's a deadline when it comes to this as well about limiting that.
The entry list is already out with them 3 as the official team, and 2, I don't have my passport yet. So, yeah. I've ran Le Mans quite a few times on iRacing lately, and it is kind of fun.
I've run it a few times on Gran Turismo 6.
So I know the course.
I know the course pretty well, too. It's a pain in the butt, but it can be fun. And then there's this, and I've gotten kind of out of it in the past couple of years since Tony Stewart retired, but I got pretty big for a while into collecting NASCAR diecast collectibles, and I have to admit, I never really thought about doing it this way. If you're a NASCAR fan and a Lego fan, these 2 companies have forged an agreement that's going to let Lego sell NASCAR licensed merchandise. The first offering, their version of the next-gen Camaro ZL1 as they race it in the Cup Series. It's now for sale in Lego stores and via the internet. You can expect more offerings, obviously including the Ford Mustang and Toyota Camry kits to be coming out soon. And as far as what else, I would imagine we'll get some small Lego people probably representing each of the individual drivers.
Probably so. And 2 little buddies of mine that's respectively 8 and 6 have already hit me up. Can you get me a NASCAR Lego? So
that took 0 time at all.
Johnny, AJ, I'm working on it, guys.
Let's turn our attention to the Xfinity Series here for a couple of reasons, by the way. John Hunter Nemechek gets to celebrate. Great start to his 2023 season. 2nd place at Daytona. Obviously won last weekend at Auto Club. Fortunately, last night, not great, but hey, he's full-time in the Xfinity Series, so what does he care about the trucks, right? He also announced on Tuesday he and his wife Taylor are expecting their 2nd child. Taken to Twitter, Nemechek posted 4 pictures, him holding the sonogram pictures, kind of got a bare midriff. Taylor sporting a small but growing baby bump. 2nd baby due in August, going to have an older sister in toddler Aspen. No word on whether this is a boy or a girl, and therefore they did not mention any possible names. But hey, congratulations. Hope everything goes well. Then you got more sponsorship news here. South Point Hotel and Casino is something that we've kind of grown used to seeing in the NASCAR world over the past few years. And they've grown very close, obviously, in the NASCAR area. That's where a lot of the NASCAR officials and everybody stays, right? Well, that sponsorship will continue this year, except this year it's going to be on the Cowlick Racing number 11 of Daniel Hemrick. Daniel Hemrick's not the surprise. He's sported the South Point Hotel and Casino looks before. But for Cowlick Racing, this is new. You'll see it later today at Las Vegas. With Brendan Gaughan all but retired from racing, but his family and his company wanting to remain and continue partnering in the sport. At this point in time, it appears to be a one-race deal. You can see the car courtesy of Speedway Media on CRN Live on YouTube. I would not be surprised if this does make a return later on in the year. After all, we do have a return visit coming to Las Vegas Motor Speedway later in the year. I would be all but shocked if we didn't at least see this paint scheme one more time this year, if not more.
Probably so.
And, you know, Brendan Gaughan, he has, I say retired, he's all but retired. You're going to see him every once in a while, but not all that often. He's mainly become kind of the guy. He's the go-to guy kind of trying to take over the family operation here.
Yeah, he's basically taking it over with his Shine brand, City Light Shine.
Yeah.
He's running all that stuff now, and I think he's doing pretty well.
Yeah, not bad at all. Title sponsor of today's race in the Xfinity Series, as we noted during the race rundown, is Alsco. They're also sponsoring Jeb Burton and his Jordan Anderson Racing Bommarito Autosport number 27 Camaro. It's actually for 5 total races this year, the first one being obvious today, then again at Atlanta mid-July, Bristol and Texas in September, and then back at Vegas when we get back there, as we just talked about, in mid-October. And here's a name I got to admit, I haven't heard a whole lot. I've heard it kind of in periphery, but I can't really remember where I heard the name Max McLaughlin.
Mike McLaughlin's son.
Yeah. But I can't remember where I heard Max's name specifically.
He ran a couple of truck races.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah. He's run dirt modifieds.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's detail that for you, shall we? We haven't really heard him in NASCAR circles since 2020 when he drove for Nice Motorsports part-time 2018 through 2020. He drove the number 38 Silverado in a part-time really schedule that really only attempted to qualify for one race. 2018 race at Eldora Speedway. He finished 12th there. Since then, he's really more been running big block modifieds up in the northeastern part of the country. He's run some ARCA and ARCA Menards East with Hattori Racing, and for Mike Kerb running in the Whelen Modified Tour the past couple of years. With no experience whatsoever and technically only one race in the Truck Series under his belt, he's going to get to make his Xfinity Series debut with the fledgling FRS racing operation. Team owner Colin Fern announced he was set to put him in his Xfinity Series number 96 Camaro later this year at Watkins Glen, which makes sense. He should be kind of familiar with Watkins Glen, the road course up there, since he spends most of his time racing in the Northeast. Fern and McLaughlin, both from New York State, and in what's now the ARCA Menards East Series, claimed the 2019 win at Watkins Glen in their own backyard. So despite the fact that he really doesn't have a whole lot of experience at this level, the track is comfortable, and that's one of the reasons why you would put him in the car.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you can find somebody that's had success somewhere and they're comfortable there, go for it.
And you got plenty of time. I mean, let's face it, August. It's not until August that we're going to get to Watkins Glen, if I remember the schedule correctly.
Yes.
So he's got time to be able to kind of familiarize himself, get familiar with this particular vehicle, and maybe even do a little bit of testing in it. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
When was the last time we heard the name Preston Pardis?
Whenever they hit a road course.
Yeah, pretty much. He is set to race once again in the Xfinity Series this year, this time with his own team. He's raced for DGM Racing most recently, but when he debuted in the series back in 2019, he drove for his family-owned team. Since 2019, he's racked up 19 starts, has claimed 3 top 10s in that time. His best finish came with the Roval in 2021. This time around, he's going to be driving a number 50 Chevrolet Camaro, sponsorship coming from Garage Oil Spirits. His first 2023 race going to be at COTA. Again, this is a part-time effort, not a full-time effort. He hasn't detailed any of the other races, but as you noted, he tends to prefer going road course racing more than anything else. It's not like we don't have a whole lot of road courses that he will have the chance to go to. So, yeah, I would expect we'll probably see him in, I don't know, half a dozen or so races. He might even try an oval or two.
Probably so. Probably so.
If he were to try an oval, where do you think he would go?
Short track, Martinsville, Bristol.
You don't think he would try like a Pocono or a Michigan or something bigger with...
Probably not.
Okay. I just thought I'd ask.
Probably not.
I mean, you never know.
Sure.
These are the reasons why we talk about this stuff, right?
Yep.
How about some more pictures as we turn our attention to the Craftsman Truck Series? Well, they worked together in 2022, so this really shouldn't be much of a shock, but it was made official over the week where Ben Rhodes and Kubota and Thor Sport Racing have officially signed a sponsorship deal, going to put the brand on the number 99 for multiple races as primary. That included last night. And they also have become Thor Sport Racing's official tractor company. We actually talked a little bit about that last week. This deal puts Kubota on actually all the Thor Sport trucks as an associate sponsor as well. You can see the truck on our CRN live show right now on YouTube, courtesy of Speedway Digest. Pretty good looking car, especially if you like orange. A lot of orange there.
Kubota.
Yeah. And then there's the sister truck, if you will, the number 98 Ford Truck of Ty Majeski. This week, as of last night, featuring his primary sponsor, Curb Records, as part of the celebration of the two working together now as partners for 15 years. Congratulations. One of the longer-running sponsorship deals in the NASCAR slate. As they have up to now, Curb's going to continue to promote their artists as they get the opportunity to throughout the course. Last night's race, they featured, I should say, country star Tim Duggar. He was on the hood and on the bed cover. You can see that truck right now on CRN Live, courtesy of Curb Records themselves. That's a good-looking truck right there.
Not bad.
I like that. Tim Duggar, by the way, in case you're sitting there thinking, I know I've heard the name Tim Duggar. Well, yeah, you have. He's done a couple of infield concerts for us at Talladega Superspeedway.
From none other than
This area.
Randolph County, Alabama.
Yep, from this area. So I would imagine probably we'll... I don't know. We might see Tim Duggar on the truck here at Talladega. You never know.
I would say there's a better than 50% odds.
Yep, I would say so too. And then kind of sobering news, but in a way good news as well with AM Racing and Max Gutierrez. Last night they honored Max's late younger brother. The plan had been for Max to attempt to qualify in the AM Racing entry at Daytona, but only days before that was supposed to happen, he learned his brother Fico had died in a car accident just outside of Mexico City. We talked about that here on the show. Well, he's laid his brother to rest. Well, Max and AM Racing were back last night, ready to race, honoring FICO. The truck, the number 22 Ford, had sponsorship from Bolsa DX and Telcel. They're going to move off the hood in favor of the logo that FICO was in favor of. It was also a nice bit on the tailgate of that truck as well, an honorarium to him. He was an up-and-coming racer in his own right in NASCAR Mexico. So, yeah, it was a sad thing, but in a way it was kind of neat to be able to, he had the chance to honor his brother and be able to race at the same time.
Sure.
I think his brother would have approved. Absolutely.
Oh, no doubt.
And then there's one more note in the truck series here where G2G Racing reportedly, and again, this is one source that's reporting this, and I'm only getting it from the one source, so I'm going to say this. Reportedly, G2G Racing has taken on the owner's points that had been assigned to the Rayón brothers number 34 truck. The point swap. God, what am I doing today? The point swap would give the 46 some extra room, points-wise, when it comes to qualifying, at least at Atlanta Motor Speedway. The point swap came too late for it to be in effect last night at Las Vegas. Again, I'm only getting this from one periphery source, which I have not really had the chance to vet out, and I haven't heard this from any of our other usual sources.
Yeah, you take this one with a major-sized grain of salt.
Exactly. But it is interesting to note that if it did happen, this does help G2G Racing get a little bit of a leg up, at least for a couple of races.
It's honestly not gonna matter that much anyway.
They don't have the speed in the truck.
No.
So let's see if it actually does translate into things that they're hoping that it does.
I don't think for a large portion of the rest of the season, maybe one or two of the larger races, I don't think you're going to have this much of an issue worrying about getting bumped or not in the trucks for the majority of the year.
Well,
I think it's probably going to be set to 36 for a 36 entries, 36 start. Like yesterday, Vegas, 35 only showed up.
yeah.
So pretty sure you're not going to have that much of a problem or that much of an issue for the remaining part of the year.
For the most part, I would say probably not.
So,
But, Rayón Brothers wouldn't have done this if they didn't feel like they had a good enough truck to be able to overcome this hit if they actually did it.
that 34 truck in qualifying was 1.9 seconds off of 33rd.
Ouch. There's a lot of daylight missing in there. Got to figure out what you're going to do with that truck, G2G. Got to go, literally. When we come back, we got a couple of notes here when it comes to what's going on. Auto Club Speedway drama. We talked about it a little bit last week. We'll get a little bit more into it this week. Kyle Petty charity ride for 2023. We now know exactly where it's going to take place. We'll tell you all about that, and we'll start to get into some SRX driver news when we come back.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Hour number 2 officially underway with Steve West, Matt Nicholson, and I'm going to do this slower to make sure I get it right this time. Producer John Myers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good grief. If you missed hour 1, you missed me screwing up that name and other stuff. Join us in hour 1, would you? 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. And by the way, if you did, tell your friends about us. We appreciate it. For the second year in a row, Kyle Petty Charity Ride going to be kind of southwestern U.S. base. It's going to be this year starting in Salt Lake City, Utah, rolls west and then south into Nevada down to Las Vegas before they circle back around and head back up to Salt Lake City. Along the way, they're going to get to check out Bonneville Salt Flats, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the Legends Motorcycle Museum, and several other sites. Among those expected to take part, if not ride, in the whole circuit itself, Kyle and his dad, Richard Petty. Richard's got a little bit more time now since he's kind of stepped away from Legacy MC. You got Ken Schrader. What have we called Ken Schrader before on this show? That's right, Ken, I'll drive anything, anywhere, Schrader. Kenny Wallace, Max Pappas from the racing world, Heisman Trophy winner Herschel Walker, NBC NASCAR announcer Rick Allen. All the proceeds, of course, from the ride go to the Victory Junction Gang Camp this year, marking the 27th annual charity ride, which did take a couple of years off due to COVID. Stupid COVID. And now it's back. And that brings us back to Auto Club Speedway's drama. Talked a lot about this last week. We even were able to show you something of the, I don't know whether it's finalized or not, blueprint. But what we do know is that the plan is to convert this to a short track. And what we know about this is that NASCAR, the owners of the facility, have sold off already a lot of the acreage around the track, including, as it turns out, property the existing 2-mile version of the track currently sits on. Corian Properties released a statement earlier this week, noted that they brokered the sale of 433 acres to a Dallas-based investment company, which they did not name. Ultimately, they say this will drop the total number of acres that NASCAR actually owns to 90. In an agreement with the county of San Bernardino that NASCAR signed in 2021, NASCAR got tax breaks in order to reduce the footprint of the track down to the smaller half-mile track that has a little bit of Martinsville, a little bit of Richmond, and a little bit of Bristol going on, as they say, in order to make room for a proposed ACS, named after Auto Club Speedway, ACS Logistics Center, whatever that means. In addition to owning the 90 acres, NASCAR states we do have the rights for parking for an additional 16 acres, which, if you're not going to cut the grandstands down a whole heck of a lot, you're going to need.
Okay. All right. We'll throw time out here. 90 acres.
90.
Anybody want to take a wild guess on how many acres Bristol sits on?
Go for it.
130.
Oh, it's more than that.
Way up.
Now, keep in mind, NASCAR sold off 433 of these acres for a 2-mile facility.
Bristol sits on 670.
Now, there is a dirt track and a drag strip there as well, which helps.
Just a drag strip.
I'm sorry, that's right. No dirt track. But there is a drag strip on those grounds as well. But yeah, that's a half-mile coliseum, as NASCAR likes to call it. Or really, SMI likes to call it. I can't imagine. Are you looking up Talladega? Total number of acreage making up Talladega Superspeedway?
Martinsville covers 340.
So that's almost 4 times the size of what NASCAR is relegated down to in Southern California. Yeesh.
The friendly confines of Talladega Superspeedway sits on approximately 3,000 acres. The infield is 247 alone. So you mean to tell me?
247.
You mean to tell me?
You could practically fit 3 of the entirety of the land area of Auto Club Speedway. You could almost fit 3 in the infield at Talladega.
if you take the 90 plus the option for 16, that's 106. If my math is very much correct, which I know it is.
Yep.
Okay. So we can do 2 full-size properties with option inside of Talladega.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who brokered this land deal?
Well, and here's the thing. You know, we drive this. You've driven it as well. John and I drive this every single Saturday to come out here and do this show. We ride on I-20 right by Talladega Superspeedway. You want to know what's for sale? The north parking lot, the campgrounds, right out by the interstate. Technically, that land is for sale.
Which, that's going to eliminate one party zone, but another one will be reloaded as usual.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I don't know who come up with this land brokerage deal, but I don't see how you can successfully operate a facility on race weekend with 116 total acres.
106.
106, excuse me. 106. I was being generous with 10.
Maybe
I don't
that's
know.
the point.
And that might be the point. I don't know. Again, we keep saying this.
I don't know. That's just, I'm puzzled.
This whole plan, I don't have a problem with the remaking of the track in and of itself. Are we going to miss the 2 mile? Sure, we'll probably miss to a certain extent the 2 mile version of Auto Club Speedway. But I kind of like the idea of another short track and having a little bit of some of your best short tracks that are out there. A little bit of Richmond, a little bit of Martinsville, a little bit of Bristol. Okay, I'm good with that. Here's the thing. You're trying to cram all that down into this little itty bitty area and trying to make it work. And we don't have any specific timetable where we're going to put a shovel into the ground to begin the construction. We don't have a specific date where we're going to end the construction. We don't even know if you've gotten full clearance from the state of California, which the miles and piles of red tape that you're going to have to go through to get that done is unfathomable.
Let me ask this.
I'll let producer John come in and take some of the camera, too.
The Coliseum, where they're running the Dash for Cash, whatever. How far away is it from Auto Club?
Roughly an hour.
But Auto Club is the go-to spot in California.
For a points race.
Coliseum, Auto Club, chop.
Could be. Could be. We shall see. Again, this is the saga of Auto Club Speedway. And
Richmond is 1,100.
you can see that. That's what, Fairgrounds? That's the Richmond Fairgrounds area.
It is.
Too. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So that's part of it.
I don't know. I don't know about this, and I agree with John here. I think this is a ploy
Yep.
to get a race at the Coliseum, which you want to see people lose their minds.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we're running a cash grab, the Busch Light Clash there. I mean, we've talked about it. This is a 1/4 mile long track stuck inside a football stadium or an Olympic stadium, however you want to put it.
Or mausoleum.
You want to try and throw 36 cars on that track?
Not happening successfully.
You want to talk about a recipe for disaster from the get-go. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Time will tell. Superstar Racing Experience doesn't have these kind of situations. The big drama for them is basically what's our driver lineup going to fill out to look like. We continue to keep an eye on that. Another domino has fallen. The defending series champion, Marco Andretti, has announced he's set to return to defend his title. We noted on the show last week that all the drivers that had announced so far had really come from the NASCAR ranks. Kind of saved Tony Stewart himself, obviously 3-time Cup Series champion and all that, but he himself has an IndyCar background. So we were wondering, where's all those open wheel guys that we have seen in the first couple of seasons, right? You ain't got to wonder no more. Marco Andretti was just the tip of the iceberg. They had 5 announcements from open wheel drivers come this week. Joseph Newgarden's going to race. Tony Kanaan's going to race. Ryan Hunter-Reay's going to race, as is Paul Tracy, along with Marco Andretti. Elio Castroneves has already said, yep, I'm going to run 2. He is going to run half the 6-race schedule. Hunter-Reay's going to run full-time. Paul Tracy's going to run full-time. Joseph Newgarden's committed to one race at this point in time. That's Motor Mile in Virginia. Tony Kanaan says he's going to run 3 races, and he specified there's Stafford in Connecticut along with Thunder Road and Eldora. So which ones Ilio's running? I think he might have detailed that already.
I have the chart right here.
Go for it.
All right. Your Stafford, I'll go through the whole lineup.
Okay.
Your Stafford lineup.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not full still yet on a couple of races. We still got 1 or 2 slots left?
4 of the 6 races are not full yet.
Okay. 1 or 2 slots left in those.
Your Stafford lineup, Brad Keselowski, Haley Deegan, Bobby Labonte, Ryan Newman, Tony Stewart, Paul Tracy, Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Tony Kanaan.
Okay.
Thunder Road, you have 9 of the 12 spots filled. Brad Keselowski, Haley Deegan, Bobby Labonte, Ryan Newman, Tony Stewart, Paul Tracy, Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Tony Kanaan. Motor Mob, you've got Brad Keselowski, Haley Deegan, Bobby Labonte, Ryan Newman, Tony Stewart, Paul Tracy, Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Helio Castroneves, Kyle Busch, Clint Boyer, Joseph Newgarden.
That is going to be a fun race to watch.
Full field. Berlin, Michigan, Brad Keselowski, Haley Deegan, Bobby Labonte, Ryan Newman, Tony Stewart, Paul Tracy, Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Helio Castroneves, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Eldora. All the 8 full-time drivers that I've read off 5 times already. Tony Kanaan. They still have 3 spots left to fill for Eldora.
Okay.
Berlin only has 1 spot left to fill. Lucas Oil Raceway, your full-time competitors. Helio Castroneves, Clint Boyer, Kenny Wallace. They have 1 more slot to fill for Lucas Oil.
Okay.
So, Hawk, if you're watching or listening, I will be happy that I could drive Eldora and Lucas Oil. I wouldn't mind a bit.
Nope, not at all. You just got to put a certain logo on the car.
Deal.
That's all we're looking for. Let's see what else we got to talk about. Well, I say we turn our attention, shall we, to open wheel racing?
Sure.
Indycar getting ready, as we talked about, to kick off their 2023 season this weekend. And after 2 seasons with Speedway being the official fuel of Indycar, it's now been switched to Shell, which, if you're familiar with the fact that Speedway and Indianapolis Motor, that the IndyCar Series and Indianapolis Motor Speedway are actually now both owned by, oh, that's right, Roger Penske. That deal starts to make a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? It's promising, by the way, Shell is, to bring the first ever 100% renewable racing fuel with them for 2023, which they claim causes 60% fewer greenhouse gases than fuels previously used. It is still ethanol-based, they say, derived from the waste portion of Brazilian sugar cane. Took them about a year to get this whole thing developed, Shell said. Not sure we're going to find this in our gas pumps at our local Shell station anytime too soon.
Very doubtful.
Deal also extends the partnership with Shell and the Penske Corporation that does include IndyCar, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, extends to Team Penske's cars in IndyCar and NASCAR, at least, and likely all other Penske entries around the world. Because, let's face it, Roger Penske's got his fingers in just about every form of racing that there is. Almost. We've also noted that with NASCAR celebrating 75 years in the racing world, Formula One obviously making sincere inroads into American motorsports viewing habits, that while IndyCar has seen their viewing numbers go up, they need to keep their piece of the pie, and they're hoping to enlarge it. So kind of like what we talked about when it came to Daytona, and with NASCAR working on videos that are promoting and celebrating their 75 years of existence, IndyCar is also set to run promotional videos that will air throughout the course of the season. In fact, you may have already seen the first. It is entitled Zero, which denotes that to win the season opener at St. Petersburg, the team and the driver can afford 0 mistakes. This one is voiced by the defending winner of this race, Scott McLaughlin. Each commercial set to run Wednesday to race day, each race week. According to series officials, these are all part of a larger, this is their words, not mine, larger multi-channel national media plan. That tells me they're going to buy a lot of TV ads on not only network, but cable. They're going to buy radio, and they're going to buy internet. How do I know they're going to buy a radio? Well, I happen to work for a radio station in Birmingham that is not an affiliate of IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One, or any racing series. It's a news talk station. Guess what we were running commercials for during this past week? That's right, the IndyCar series.
I need that contact number, please. Thank you.
If I can find it, I'll let you know.
You do that.
I didn't make the sale. So, yeah, they are definitely trying to do a push to make sure that they remain relevant in an area where NASCAR, again, it is the monster of television ratings and, truth be told, in radio ratings when it comes to listening to motorsports on the radio. NASCAR is the monster here in the United States of America. We have seen increases in IndyCar viewership and listenership. We've seen increases in NHRA viewership and listenership, and we've seen those increases in IndyCar viewership and listenership as well. But right now, all those eyes and all the talk, with all respect to IndyCar, does seem to be centered on NASCAR and Formula One. IndyCar does not want to be left behind in this, and that's why they're doing this. I haven't actually seen this. I hope to be able to check this promotional video out, because usually these things are very, very well done. You look at NASCAR media, you look at what Formula One's done with Netflix, you look at what, for example, the NFL or Major League Baseball has been able to do with their specific film situations. They all do great jobs in coming up with this stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing this one. We'll continue talking a bit of IndyCar when we come back on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
Come out to Freedom Homes of Alexandria, previously known as
Two tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, and coming up, Since we're getting ready to get into both Formula One and IndyCar's seasons this weekend, we're going to talk power rankings Formula One, but let's do the same for IndyCar. The man who was the runner-up in final points last year, himself as a two-time champion of the series, is actually sitting on top of the power rankings in IndyCar. That's Joseph Newgarden. I kind of get why. The man was on a hot streak late in the year last year. If they can keep that momentum up, makes sense.
It makes no sense reason why he would not be at the top.
Except for the fact that Will Power was the defending champion. He's relegated down to second. I mean, what do they think dropped from last year to this year that would make him drop one spot in the power rankings?
I would like to know.
Yeah, me too. Six-time champion Scott Dixon's third. Alex Palou, with his contract situation behind him. Remember, he's on a one-year deal right now with Chip Ganassi Racing before he flies that coupe. But now he can actually concentrate on his driving as opposed to having that drama. So he moves up to fourth in the preseason power ranks. Pato Awards fifth. Scott McLaughlin, nice showing for him, sixth. Marcus Ericsson, I would think mainly based upon his win in the 2022 Indy 500, is seventh. Colton Herta's eighth. That seems low to me.
Yeah, that is low.
2022 Rookie of the Year Christian Lundgaard is there. And then he did finally break a long winless streak, and now he's with a new team. Arrow McLaren's newest driver, Alexander Rossi, rounds out the top 10. Any problems with this? Again, I think Colton Herta's too low.
Herta's low, yes.
I think Marcus Ericsson might be a little too high. Just simply, I mean, yeah, he won the Indy 500, and he had a couple of good races after that, Detroit, Belle Isle.
I think Rossi.
But after that, he was kind of mid-pack.
I think Rossi's too low.
Okay, so Ericsson's too high. Rossi's too low.
Herta's too low.
And you know, while I don't really have a problem with Joseph Newgarden being number one,
Palou is close.
I still think I would flip Power and Newgarden. I'd probably put Power at number one, Newgarden at number two.
Palou is close.
I think he's right about where he needs to be. I think Scott Dixon's right about where he needs to be. You can never count Scott Dixon out.
Palou's on the high side, though.
A little high?
Being close.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll find out here.
Yep.
Beginning tomorrow. IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway also have inked an extension of their deal with Legends Global Merchandise. They're going to continue as IndyCar's official retail partner, which they've been since 2014. It's been a good partnership since taking over that role. Legends has opened up a permanent store inside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum in the infield of the storied track, and if you've never been there, go. Really cool place. And I haven't been there since the mid-'90s, so it's changed a lot since then. On race weekend, they actually operate not only that store, but 50 kiosks around Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They're also in charge of creating the walk-in store that travels to all the other 15 race locations. Remember, they do 2 race weekends at Indianapolis. And overall, the course of the 17-race schedule, they've also helped the series' revenue stream. They have brought in record-breaking sales and revenue, reportedly doubling the retail revenue since 2014. In this new deal, the partnership actually even gets more involved, bringing more newer items in several different categories of apparel and collectibles, working with several well-known brand names like Tommy Bahama, Columbia, Holderness, and Bourne, several others in there. With all that, their offerings on the series official website set to get expanded. Now, we've talked about this. They've already revamped the website. They finally, as of, we go to air on Saturdays, so you may be watching this in replay later on. You may be watching it live. I don't know. But if you're watching us on YouTube or whatever, as of yesterday, they officially unveiled the revamped app, official app for the IndyCar series. The stores are now on the website and on the app that you can go to are now getting their own matching updates that should come about later on in this month. And I would expect that what they offer in the store at that particular time starts to get expanded out as well. IndyCar fans rejoice.
Do it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Let's go from IndyCar to Formula One. And first things first, let's talk about this. They are in qualifying for the race in Bahrain.
Right now, they are. And qualifying in Q1 just ended.
Okay. Who's going to miss, I guess? Probably let's start there.
And Steve West, would you believe that 18 of the 20 cars are within 9/10 of a second of each
Throw
other.
a blanket over them. Wow.
9/10 of a second.
Seems closer than what we would normally expect, yeah.
A lot closer. See, now that Sky Sports wants to take the graphic off, let me
Thanks for
pull
nothing.
this back up.
Thanks for nothing.
Oh, here we go.
Appreciate
It's back. It's back.
that. Okay.
All right. You're 5 out from 20 to 16. Nick DeVries,
Not really a big shock. He's still adjusting.
Oscar Piastri.
Again, rookie, still adjusting.
Those two were plus 1 second out.
Okay.
Now here comes the cars that are underneath 9/10 of a second. Kevin Magnussen.
Ooh.
He fell out late.
Yeah, he did.
He was inside, but he was late. Pierre Gasly.
That's a little bit of a surprise.
Now, this is going to be interesting to see how they play it out, but Logan Sargent and Lando Norris tied on time.
Wow.
So, see how that goes. Doggone it, Sky Sports.
I'm not sure how they break that tie.
I don't know. But they were both .659 off of the leader.
I guess maybe first one that did it.
I guess so. Let me just go to the F1 timing and scoring since Sky Sports wants to be jacked up right now. Okay, yeah. Actually, yeah. It's Pierre Gasly, Nick DeVries, Oscar Piastri, Kevin Magnussen, Logan Sargent. Your first 5 out.
Okay.
So you're 15 advancing to round 2 from 15 to 1. Lando Norris, Zhou Guanyu, Lewis Hamilton, 13th.
Ouch.
Esteban Ocon, Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez, 10th. 9th, Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, 8th.
Into Williams. I mean, that's a nice run for Williams.
Yuki Tsunoda, 8th. Max Verstappen was 7th.
Oh.
Nico Hulkenberg, 6th.
Judging by what we have seen, Nico Hulkenberg might be the pickup of the offseason.
The top 5 were all within 0.2 of each other.
Whoa.
Lance Stroll, 5th. Fernando Alonso, 4th.
Not bad for a guy with an injured wrist.
Charles Leclerc, 3rd. George Russell, 2nd.
Whoa.
Carlos Sainz was your fastest in P1 and Q1 right now.
George Russell that vastly outperformed Sir Lewis Hamilton?
0.5 of a second quicker.
That's interesting.
Are they sandbagging or is he that much quicker?
We'll find out.
Q2 will be done by the end of this show.
Barely. With the first race of the 2023 season set to run about 24 hours from now, the team at Formula1.com, based upon their preseason testing, ranked the top 10 teams. And according to them, this is what they're expecting out of this coming season. We begin at number 10. Shockingly enough, it's Williams. They are called a sleeping giant by the site. I would say that they're probably still napping at least a little bit. In at number 9, they say is Haas F1, but they do admit that Haas F1 is in play in a very packed midfield battle that could see them, with Nico Hulkenberg trying to round back into racing shape, jump up as high as 5th. Okay. AlphaTauri at number 8. They note that Nick DeVries did impress in his one race last year, but that he and Yuki Tsunoda, his teammate, are young and green and have a learning curve to deal with. Therefore, I might have actually put them behind Haas F1, but that's my own personal way of looking at it.
True.
Number 7, McLaren. In what would be a down year for the team that was just 4th only 2 seasons ago, but they did admit, remember this, and we talked about it on the show last week, that they are going to get out of the gate very slow. They state they got a good rookie, but he's a rookie nonetheless, and Oscar Piastri, who has to learn. And yeah, they missed on their development deadlines when it came to the car. So that does seem to fit with what we just talked about in Q1. Number 6, Alfa Romeo, which is very nice for the title sponsor in their final season. The remaining duo is, of course, the drivers, Valtteri Bottas, Guan Yu Zhou. They're bringing stability to that team. Number 5, Alpine. This was the surprise 4th place team last year in 2022. They now have a veteran driver lineup. Yes, they did lose Fernando Alonso, but they gained Pierre Gasly from Red Bull, but as we just saw, that didn't seem to help him in Q1. Number 4 is Aston Martin, expected to rebound with the addition of Fernando Alonso. Both Nico Hulkenberg and Christian Horner of Red Bull say that Aston Martin will be this year's most improved team. The question, of course, being, can Lance Stroll get back from his injury soon? Well, in Q1, he did top 5. I'd say that's a pretty good start.
He did.
Number 3, Mercedes. They state Mercedes is still trying to find themselves after a bad, for them, 2022. This one appears to be shaping up, at least at the beginning, pretty much the same. Number 2 is Ferrari. They have the returning drivers of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, but the site says before we can think about putting them in a battle for number 1, they need to start showing consistency. You get out of the box hot, but you cool off in the summertime, and that allows number 1, Red Bull, with little reason, they say, other than bringing back your race winner from last year, Sergio Perez, and your 2-time defending champion, Max Verstappen, showing speed throughout the preseason. They just have very little reason to doubt that.
Very true.
Again, if I'm saying one thing, I'm saying this. I might switch 8 and 9. Other than that, I can't really complain about these rankings otherwise. And the only reason I'd switch 8 and 9 is because you got veteran drivers versus relatively untested. I get Nick DeVries as a Formula E veteran, but still, Formula 1 and Formula E are 2 different animals.
Yeah. I'd swap 8 and 9. And I would even swap 5 and 6.
I could see that. Okay. Well, you've heard rankings. Matt came across this.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
Let's face it, it's very difficult to compare eras or seasons from one year to the next because a lot of things change, especially if you look at American sports, stick and ball sports specifically. You got free agency, for example, and it changes the rosters all the time. But somebody, likely with too much time on their hands, took some time out to compare current teams in Formula One to current teams in the National Football League.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna give you a break. I want to read these.
Please do.
I will give you a break on this. We're going to start at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
This is actually quite hilarious. They compared the Williams team to John's beloved Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, I didn't include that one in this particular rundown, but go for it.
So their bullet points were how the mighty have fallen. Your dad will tell them how good this team used to be. And rest in peace to Frank Williams and Al Davis.
Got to admit, there's a lot of parallels there.
A lot of it. They compared the Scuderia Alpha Tauri team to the New York Jets. Some great talent has passed through these teams over the years. They're the little brother teams.
Red Bull or the New York Giants, let's face it.
And no one really expects them to ever win.
Well, let's face it, we've always said that JET stands for just end the season.
Yep. I'm reading this straight off of the graphic here.
I added the just end the season.
They compared the MoneyGram Haas F1 team to the Houston Texans.
Ouch.
The newest team had some decent years, but they are not generally good.
And here's the thing.
And most people from the team's home country / state like a different team.
We're talking about Texas. Let's face it. Cowpokes, they kind of dominate.
They compared the Aston Martin Cognizant Aramco team to the Washington Commanders.
Or Redskins, if you prefer.
Or Redskins, yeah. Their owner is often more newsworthy than the actual team. They changed their name a lot in recent years. And I'm sure the actual team is trying their best.
We hope.
Yeah. The Alfa Romeo team compared to the Carolina Panthers.
It's an interesting comparison. I'll give them that.
Started in 1993. Have had only 2 truly great years in their history. And they're kind of just there most of the time.
Yeah. Sorry, Panthers fans.
All righty. Now we're getting to the top 5.
The big boys.
McLaren. Compared to the San Francisco 49ers.
Wait, 49ers fans. You're about to get a little slice of humble pie.
Another historically successful team that's had to go through some rough years.
But there's hope.
They're on their way back to the top. Keyword, on their way.
Yeah.
And Zach Brown collects drivers the same way the 49ers collect quarterbacks.
Next.
Alpine. Compared to the Indianapolis Colts.
Not sure if that's a good thing.
Found major success in the mid-2000s with one of the all-time greats leading the way. Said great probably could have won more if it wasn't for another all-time great getting in his way.
I can see that.
Next up,
I wonder who that all-time great is.
the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula F1 team
Uh-huh.
compared to our beloved New England Patriots.
Yep, both Matt and I are big fans of this operation.
One of the most dominant dynasties of any sport ever,
Sure.
led by the GOAT.
Sure.
This one kind of hurt a little bit.
It did a little, didn't it?
Their reign of terror is finally over. Not necessarily.
I wonder what Toto Wolff and Robert Kraft would have to say
For the
about that
Patriots.
particular line.
And Toto Wolff and Bill Belichick kind of look like movie villains.
I've seen more than once Bill Belichick compared to Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's I see where they're coming from.
I'm going to have
that.
fun with this one right here.
I bet you are.
Ferrari. Compared to the pathetic... Oh, did I say that out loud?
Almost.
Dallas Cowboys. Historically, one of the most iconic and successful teams ever. Keyword, historically. Haven't had that kind of success in a while. Made a habit of choking.
Ouch.
And don't worry, this is their year.
Oh, is it?
I think he was being facetious.
I'm being very facetious.
It's our year.
And last but not
Next
least,
year.
And last but not least, Red Bull compared to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Who else would you expect?
Defending champs at the start of a dynasty and led by a young star who is quickly rising up the GOAT rankings. And that ends it.
Actually, pretty close. I said they had too much time on their hands. Man, they really thought that one out, though. One more note before we take a break and go on to other things in Formula One. If you've ever wondered how much Formula One drivers get paid, well, stop and consider this. We've talked about this. Yes, there's a budget cap now when it comes to how much you can spend on the car. It's $145 million per car. So, yeah, you can put a pretty good amount of money to the drivers. How much? Two-time defending series champion Max Verstappen set to make $55 million this year. Is that all? Don't cry for seven-time champion Sir Lewis Hamilton. He may not have won a race last year, but he's still set to bring home $35 million for this year's efforts. On the opposite side of that, you got the three drivers who will only, as I use the Air Bunnies, bring home $1 million in 2023. They are Williams rookie Logan Sargent, AlphaTauri's Yuki Tsunoda, and potentially the deal of the year considering how he has performed in preseason testing and in his two race practices and in qualifying where he made Q2. Haas F1's newest addition, Nico Hülkenberg. Veteran Haas F1 Kevin Magnussen's bringing home $5 million this season, by the way. Between Verstappen and his teammate Carlos Sainz, Red Bull spending the most on their drivers, a total of $67 million. Mercedes is next at 43, so you can see the difference. You got $55 million for one driver at Red Bull, 12 for the other, which is still nothing to sneeze at, but still. $35 million for Sir Lewis Hamilton, $8 million for his teammate. Over at Ferrari, it's $36 million between the two drivers. Spending the least on their driving pair, AlphaTauri, $3 million for Yuki Tsunoda and 2023 rookie and former Formula E driver Nick DeVries. Do you get what you pay for?
Pretty much.
Kinda, yeah. We'll get down to business literally here in just a couple of moments. Talk a little bit about Red Bull, AlphaTauri. We talked about the fact that last week there was some talk about kind of a Fisher cut bait situation between Red Bull and their sister operation, AlphaTauri. There's more information on that and how Andretti Autosport fits in on that. Plus, we got some news from sports cars coming up on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
That's right. Run to the checkered flag here on this week's show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, and To Business, where we noted on the show last week, Red Bull made a little bit of noise that one of two things must or is going to happen. Despite stating a couple of years ago that they wanted AlphaTauri to kind of operate as its own entity, now with the recent passing of the Red Bull founder and chairman Dietrich Mateschitz last season, which, by the way, they did a great job on that in Netflix's Formula One Drive to Survive, things seem to kind of be back to where they were when the team was called Toro Rosso. Two things that Red Bull stated that AlphaTauri must do is, one, either move closer to the Red Bull headquarters in Britain, or with their money situation, which ain't great, risk being sold off. No word from either operation as to which potential thing might happen, whether it's potentially the move or the sale, but it did seem something of a perfect setup for Andretti Autosport to then sweep in and take over an existing operation. Or maybe not. New Red Bull CEO Oliver Mintzlaff and AlphaTauri team principal Franz Tost met several times recently, Tost saying that Mintzlaff, quote, confirmed that the shareholders will not sell Scuderia AlphaTauri and that Red Bull will continue to support the team in the future. So it seems to end that discussion. Seems to. But then again, we've seen things change at the drop of a hat, haven't we?
Correct.
Now, as to what it might take for Andretti Autosport to actually begin their own 11th team, that cost just kind of seems to continue to rise. Motorsport.com is now reporting that the ultimate fee for them to get in could be somewhere in the $600 million range. Currently, the bottom line dilution fee for a team to enter is $200 million, which would then be split evenly amongst the 10 existing operations. They would therefore get $20 million each because, well, we're going to get a smaller piece of the whole overall revenue pie, so therefore we have to make them pay to come in, right? Right. Well, these teams continue to be very short-sighted and complaining about the splitting of the annual revenues after the initial dilution fee, thinking, correctly, yeah, you won't get 1/10, but you'll get 1/11 or 1/12, depending on how many teams actually come in. But the thing about this is, remember, Haas F1, yes, it's an American-owned team, but it has no American driver in there, and that's something that Andretti Autosport says that they will ensure. Plus, while Haas F1 does have a building here in the United States, we've seen it, it's just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, right next door to the Stewart-Haas building, they do pretty much all race operations out of where? Britain. Or they have a sub-place not that far away from their sister operation, for all intents and purposes, Scuderia Ferrari, over in Maranello, Italy. So they really don't have that big of a footprint here in the United States, whereas Andretti basically says, you know what we're going to do? Most of our operations are going to be based right here in the United States of America with an American driver. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about having an American driver on an American-owned team in a sport that is growing in popularity in the biggest sports market in the world. You can't tell me that you're not going to be able to potentially make a whole heck of a lot more money than what you had been making before. So again, short-sighted. However, Formula One officials are listening very closely to the voices of the 10 existing teams. The site, Formula1.com, states that they are considering raising the dilution fee to as much as $600 million, as referenced before, $60 million for each team. Michael Andretti has said that he does have a good war chest to save up, but to get to $600 million, he may need Cadillac's and GM's help to make up some of the difference. The last number he stated, I think, was somewhat less than $400 million set aside for this whole thing. That brings us to the 8th race. I know this weekend is the first race of the 2023 season, but the 8th race, they're going to be in Spain for the Spanish Grand Prix, the return of the series to the Catalunya circuit. Going to look a little bit different. It's actually going to go back to an original look. Course officials have decided to eliminate the chicane that they built into the track back in 2007 that came right before the final corner in the front straight. So what they're doing is eliminating turns 14 and 15, putting the course back to how it was initially set up when the Formula One first went there way back in 1991. Because they're expecting also an increase in speed, new high-tech barriers have been put in place or will be put in place in time for the race around the final two corners. Again, both of them are going to be much faster. It's going to shorten the course only by about a few yards, a couple of meters technically, if you want to use that particular term, keeping the track's outlay at about 2.7 miles long. You can expect turn 1 now to have a 5-degree slant to it as well. New paint on the track, an updated scoring tower, more modern signaling system. So if you happen to be going there, it's going to look a little bit different, maybe a little bit more modern.
Good.
But
3/4
faster.
lap.
Oh, yeah? What you got?
Q2 is just completed in Bahrain.
Okay.
Your 5 eliminated.
Completed or underway?
Completed.
I thought we were on the countdown to being underway.
No,
Sorry.
Q2 is completed.
Okay.
Your bottom 5 out. Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, Zhou Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas, Lando Norris.
Nico Hülkenberg, in his first time back with Haas F1, makes it Q3.
He was in second for a while and he got bumped.
Hello.
Going to Q3 is Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Nico Hülkenberg, Sergio Perez, Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc.
Well, you asked if Hamilton was sandbagging.
Yep.
When you're thinking about where series might find their next generations of drivers when it comes to Formula One, you'd think karting. Well, yes. And in this case, kind of no. Seems Formula One has signed a 15-year deal with a British soccer club, football over there, the Tottenham Club. This partnership is going to see the largest indoor karting facility built in Tottenham's Hotspur Stadium. It'll feature tracks for youth and adults and will be accredited by the National Karting Association, so it is now, cleared for championship-level races. Once this deal is complete, it's set to open later this year for competition. They're going to build adult and kids competition karting tracks inside the stadium and still be able to play soccer. Whew. That ought to be interesting.
That's,
Take tips, NASCAR.
yeah, you want a stadium race?
Yeah, sure.
I think we found one.
Yeah, we might have. As we noted, this weekend's race set to air on ESPN. Both ABC and ESPN have confirmed they're very, very happy with having the U.S. rights to air Formula One. And they're showing commitment by saying that 18 of the 23 races will either show up on ESPN or ABC. Only 5 this year are set to show up on ESPN2. The networks begin a new 3-year deal with Formula One as this year begins. And as it starts, more races going to get on the main network, ABC. Obviously, not surprisingly, the North American races in order: Canada, Miami, Mexico City, and Austin, Texas. What's a little surprising is the fact that the Las Vegas race is not included in that. But remember, here in the U.S., it's going to be a late Saturday evening start time, so that actually does make it a little bit less of a shock that it's not going to be on ABC. So 4 for ABC, the 5th one that they're going to show, kicking off the tryout on Memorial Day weekend, Monaco. It'll shift to NBC for the Indy 500 and then Fox for the Coca-Cola 600 for IndyCar and NASCAR, respectively. So that's 5. The remaining 18, you've got 13 set to air on ESPN, all going to have pre- and post-race coverage showing up on the flagship entity Sports Center, plus more emphasis on showing qualifying this season, so you can expect almost all the qualifying sessions to be aired either on ESPN or ESPN2. The 5 ESPN2 races are, in order that they run on the schedule, Emilia-Romagna in Italy, May 21st. I was a little shocked about that. But more surprisingly is the fact that what generally is considered the place where the very first Formula One official race ever happened, the British Grand Prix on July 9th, is going to be shunted to ESPN2. Not sure why. Japanese Grand Prix September 24th, the very next race, which will be the Qatar Grand Prix on October the 8th. And the final race that goes to ESPN2 will be the Brazilian Grand Prix, November the 19th. Those last races are ones that would interfere with ESPN's NFL pregame show, so I kind of get why they're going there. Let's
Not
face
a
it.
surprise.
Here in the United States, the NFL is king. In Formula E, we often talk about Formula One feeder series like Formula 2, 3, and 4 being the most obvious. The F1 Academy, which we have just talked about within the past couple of weeks as well. By the way, Toto Wolff's wife, Susie Wolff, who used to be an executive in Formula E, she is now the boss of the F1 Academy, the women's driving series that's equivalent to about Formula 4. Formula E has been kind of without really a feeder series. They've been getting drivers from all those divisions as well, but that's about to change. We're about to get a new division for battery-powered racers set to debut. It's called the ACE Championship. It's going to be headed by former Mahindra Racing CEO Dilbagh Gill, and it has Alejandro Agag, who co-founded Formula E, on its board of directors. The aim is to make the series, quote, an affordable entry into racing for young drivers, but also features a challenger series within the championship set to highlight the engineers of the series, try to help all of them advance up to the top levels. It's going to be a regional series using short format races, wanting to visit racetracks in areas that they state are underrepresented in existing series. The car will be kind of a generation behind Formula E, so it's more like the Generation 2 Formula E rides, not the Gen 3 that they're using this year. Power is going to be down from what Formula E offered. It was about 250 kilowatts or 335 horsepower, offering a top speed of 174 miles per hour. Ace Championship cars, they're not going to reach any of those numbers, so don't worry about that. A little bit slower. We've also talked about the impending Audi entry into Formula One, but they're losing one of the people that made that happen, Dieter Goss. Goss was formerly the head, and remember, I just said this, formerly the head of Audi Motorsport, but he's now left that role. He's joining Formula E as the series the official senior technical and sporting advisor. Where do they come up with these titles? He's going to report directly to the series co-founder and current CEO Alberto Longo. The idea is to put and keep Formula E at the forefront of technology, their words, not mine. And as a liaison between series stakeholders, the FIA, and all the other entities for Longo and the other Formula E executives, he's in charge of maintaining the forward direction of the series while game planning the future for it as well. My, don't we have a nice speechwriter at Formula E? Mm-hmm. We've also noted this. We don't generally talk about IMSA or sports car racing all that much, the exceptions being the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, 24 Hours Le Mans notwithstanding. But in this case, we're going to mention sports cars. It has to be about one of those two, right? In this case, it's the 24 Hours Le Mans. With some adjustment of the eligibility rules at Le Mans, there's going to be 8 American-owned entries in the field this year. Cadillac going to have 3 cars running in the newly expanded hypercar class. They're going to be taking on Porsche models from Porsche Penske Motorsport. The hypercar class was expanded to include IMSA's Grand Touring Prototype or GTP class. So you got Cadillac with 3 entries. You got the Porsche Penske Motorsport, and Porsche Penske's Roger Penske, obviously. You got Glickenhaus Racing, based in the United States. They're going to enter 2 GTP/hypercar entries of their own. Joining is Chip Ganassi Racing's 2 entries and 1 entry from Whelen Engineering Action Express. So hypercar is going to be an interesting competition. Mm-hmm. Also in from IMSA's LMP2 division, 2 entries that will compete in the Le Mans LMGTE AM division. Then, of course, you got the Garage 56 entry from NASCAR, Hendrick Motorsports, Chevrolet, and Goodyear. The race happens the second weekend of June, the dates specifically 10th and 11th. But wait, there's more. 7-time Super Bowl champion, winning NFL quarterback Tom Brady is going to go racing. Well, his brand is, anyway, to be more accurate. The Brady brand of apparel will be sponsoring the Hertz team at Le Mans, with the company logo adorning the rear wing supports. Kind of has us wondering how willing Tom and the company might be interested in sponsoring a more racing-related things like, I don't know, maybe a particular racing radio show?
Just saying.
Anyway, he could, saying at the reveal of the car's look, which you can see, by the way, on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of motorsport.com, he said this, quote, "I've been a big fan of motor racing for a long time, and for Brady, the brand, to now be a part of the Hertz team as the future of motorsport apparel and design is an incredibly exciting opportunity." We'll be making a call, Tom. The Jota team, J-O-T-A, is the co-owner of this Hertz entry. It's going to put Formula E driver Antonio Felix da Costa in that car at Le Mans, along with drivers Will Stevens and Yifei Yi. Jota's team's full-time drivers, Stevens and Yi, going to get to pilot this car with the paint scheme you see at the Sebring's 1,000-mile event coming up in a couple of weeks.
Hey, don't put it past me to get it set up. I'm on a roll with getting stuff set up here lately.
Hey, we're always interested in doing things like sporting sponsor apparel. Just saying.
Yeah.
Hope you all enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. We appreciate all the great comments here on YouTube. Jeffrey, Chi-Town Mark, and oh gosh, our friends over in Greece and everybody else. I mean, God, you guys have all been great. We appreciate it. Don't forget to check us out on all the social medias that are out there, except for TikTok. We don't do that. And check out our website, crnradio.us. Y'all have a great week. Enjoy the racing. Thank you for listening to CRN.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.